Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to a fantastic new episode of Record Breakers. We are your friends, here to share music with with you and with each other, with the world. This is a podcast where a group of friends get together, take turns sharing an album, and then we all talk about what we thought about that album. It's like a little book club for music. It's fun. I'm Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew, my maids for this maid cafe. We've got Brett.
The wheel provides. Praise the wheel.
Yes. We've got Drew.
That wheel in the sky keeps on turning.
Yes.
I don't know where I'll be to.
And
I can't go higher.
And we've got Patrick.
Hello, people.
Yes. We're here to talk about music. We're here to talk about an album. I am providing an album this week. It's very cool, very interesting. Nice.
Says you.
Oh. Nice little heavy, hard rock music by a bunch of talented Japanese women. They have a thing, they have a shtick where they dress up as maids. But overall, they're just really talented rock musicians that get together and write and create and play tight, fun rock music. Let's talk about some expectations before I dive into describing this album. I'll go with Patrick. What were your expectations coming into this album?
Anytime Petey doesn't have picks an album that isn't on the streaming service we subscribe, either of us subscribes to, it might get weird, but Petey also sometimes picks great stuff, so I was hopeful, I guess, would be my
I guess Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Changing it up. I knew he was bringing us something of Japanese origin, and while he usually goes Korean when going foreign language, I was expecting something that was knowing what we've said before about things that make their way from overseas to the Americas. It's usually pretty well polished, so I was expecting a well-produced record of whatever genre they were playing in. But other than that, I had no freaking idea what I was about to get myself into. I didn't know what the band's name meant until I was sitting down to write notes. I didn't know the genre we were playing in. I just know, all right, we got a zip file.
Yes. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I did not know shit about what I was getting into. I didn't even do a Google search. Like Drew said, a file dropped upon me, and I opened it up and unzipped it, and I launched Winamp, and I kicked the llama's ass. It was an album that I try to not have expectations coming into things, and even if I did, I don't know how that would have worked.
Yes. Yeah. Band-Maid is a straightforward rock band. I think the great way to describe it, I'm even looking at Wikipedia as I think using other people's way to describe things, because they find better ways to describe music than I
make
do.
Sure to donate. Jimmy Wales is giving you a personal appeal.
Yes. TeamRock.com apparently refers to the Band-Maid as a, quote, a dirty rock and roll band, end quote, that combines, quote, the attitude of Guns N' Roses and the pomp of Def Leppard, end quote.
Put that on anything.
That's not not anywhere close where I'm going to fall into.
No, that is great. That is so wrong.
I just love it, but it's so no. They're a pretty straightforward, just heavy hard rock band. Really tight musicianship.
Really spoke Def Leppard to me. I
just saw that and I was like, what? It's so perfect.
Made me think I was crazy when I read that too. I was like, I'm getting more like the mid 2000s-y, like weird, like intricate hardcore tones, like in places, not
Or
Guns
Def
N' Roses
Leppard.
and Def Leppard.
The Guns N' Roses, maybe.
Yes, maybe.
Def Leppard,
I don't know.
no. Not so
Overall,
much.
the main thing about this is that it's super tight, super fun, heavy, but not in a kind of like not in a heavy in kind of a lot of the right ways. But overall, kind of like catchy, and like fun to listen to, fun to rock out to. They're really good musicians. They're really good. You know, the vocalist. Let me get her because I always forget. Saiki Yatsumi is a fantastic vocalist. Miku Kobato backs her up really well. Like the guitar work is really cool. Like the drums are really really tight and really cool. Even like the bass rears its head and shines in places. Like all of it is really tight and really fun. Like musically, and I think it just is a really cool record to just like headbang to. Like it's just a fun record to rock out to. Patrick, how would you describe this album musically?
It's really easy to like classify this as a gimmick because they have a gimmick, but I feel like what you kind of like Drew kind of alluded to it. It's a little bit like just modern hard rock, but I think at a technical level that a lot of bands of this genre cannot achieve or don't bother to achieve. It's really, really technically well executed. But also, and I'm going to describe this, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, a lot of this record sounds like the ending credits of an anime. Like the ending theme song of anime. And I mean that in like they're all like the good ending songs of animes, but they do have that. I think it's partially the female vocals, the way they are, the way they're produced very much sound like that. But also like anime sometimes have to have a cool hip rock song at the end. But I also really, really enjoyed it. It's fun to listen to. It is because it's a little bit weird. It unbutts butt rock and just ends up being really fun.
You can't unbutt butt rock.
Yes, you can. You just remove the butt.
Hey,
I don't believe in that science.
Hey, if you can polish a turd, you can probably unbutt butt rock. Remember that episode of Mythbusters when they figured that out?
They unbutted butt rock.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
I think Tor
unbutted butt
really
rock,
shined in that regard. Yeah.
I always got the idea that he listened to a lot of butt rock, but that's just me, I guess.
Yeah. Fair enough. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
What music do you think Grant Imahara listens to?
Classic.
I'll tell you my thoughts on
We can
Grant
find this
Imahara
out.
off camera. But the things I've heard about that guy. But no, the thing about this record is the tone. As the record started and as it flowed, every time I heard like the tone of the music, my mind kept going, "Oh, they're gonna be like the metal bands I listened to when I was in like junior high, and there's gonna be screams somewhere, like right, like that's what's gonna come." Nope. There is all of these like really like these chugging riffs with like the intricate lines weaving in and out of like the backdrop, and like the bass just doing like these weird walks, but then like sliding down and back up and like doing that sort of bit.
Oh yeah.
It's stuff that like I really like the tone of, stuff that I really dig there, but it usually is accompanied by this like very overbearing vocal that I just don't jive with anymore. Because I'm not 13 and
You don't hold with it, bub?
No, I haven't. And I'll go back and try to listen to that style of music, and it's always just like I get one or two songs and I'm like, okay, that's enough for now. The vocals in this that just pop out from under that, and like do the thing that I like when it's that juxtaposed vocal on these type of things. Just works really, really well. I think overall, again, it's the composition of it and the production quality of it cannot be understated in my opinion. It's really, really well thought out, but it is something that's really cool. Even not, again, like I said, I didn't see this band at all until I went and like sat down to write notes, and then like I started researching things and saw like how this band presents themselves on stage and like that bit. If you were just listening to this band, like just coming into it from that fresh perspective, the gimmick does not play in the music. The gimmick only plays in how they like the art and the way they present themselves on stage and stuff like that. The music itself is really, really cool. So like having that fun gimmick, like I can get down with a band that does that. Like that's kind of dope.
Yeah.
So,
Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes, elements that catch your attention?
Well, it's a little bit metal, and it's a little bit whiny air punk rock. But it's certainly polished. I think that's the first Donnie Marie reference on Record Breakers. Let's all like say for the moment and celebrate it biannually. But the sound, it sort of skips around. You can hear several different influences in like even the solos and the tone. There's a lot of heavy double bass drum use. There's some very skilled solo work on the guitars. And you can tell that like some of the tones were meticulously crafted to sound like a thing. There's a extensive use of tapping in the guitar solos. It's also extremely poppy. It's going for the earworm. It's not quite like grown in a lab if you recorded in a clean room, but kinda. But that's kind of what you expect. Like I don't know that the albums that we get here on Record Breakers that crosses the Pacific come over and don't sound like this from the peers of this band and others that we have heard. But like it ranges in how poppy and how like straight up hook, the way that it is a song that is written with the like the outline of this is something that is digestible to most people, but we fit in other things to differentiate our band from others. And I'm sure like it's at different levels, but when we get into tracks individually, I'm sure that we will all hit some of those things.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the key tracks. I'll do the Record Breakers thing, talk about how it opens up with Don't You Tell Me. It does a good job of introducing what they are. Like you get a lot of what a lot of their pieces right there, especially like the hooky part, the very catchy hook, like the very catchy English hook in the middle of this Japanese song, like all semantics aside of like the word usage, but it is catchy and it is fun, like and the guitars are really cool, and like the instrumentation is really cool. You also have the single, which is like the single that like the name kind of might throw you off, but it shouldn't. You get over YOLO. The name might make you like squinge a little bit.
I'm squinging so hard.
Yeah, it's squinge worthy. Hashtag squinge worthy. But it's still a really cool song musically, and it's still like the vocals are just fantastic in this one. And like the vocals are fantastic, and it works really well. And I think it also closes really well with "Secret in My Lips," which is another one of the songs that has a video on it for it. And especially like there's some really cool moments like that double bass drums and things like that, and and the guitar work is really cool, and the vocals are really cool on that one as well. Like, but yeah, I'll leave you guys to describe a little bit better. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'll double down on the opening track. Don't You Tell Me. Good chorus. Like this album is sort of it is just modern hard rock, but with the catchiest of hooks. And like this song is very much that. Moratorium, really, really cool guitar melody thing. It's if you took one of my favorite bands, Nevermore, and somehow made it happy and poppy, it would maybe sound like that, and that's a compliment. Like just the not palm muted wandering guitar line just kind of had that, plus the presumably cranked up Mesa Boogie amp tone, just it did that in a weird way. The guitars are definitely tuned down, but not too much. I don't hate that quite like Brett does. I'm kind of okay with guitars being tuned down to Q if you got to. Just, do it right.
The last album I brought was done completely in 2 steps down. But.
Yeah. But I like the sort of kind of pretty heavy rock music, but with really pretty nice polished vocals. It's fun. And then Take Me Higher. It starts out kind of like a dumb rock song, and then you get this insane slappy bass breakdown thing, and cool wad out guitar solos, and it's just fun. It's good. It really is a good example of the fact that these guys are way better musicians than you would expect a bunch of people who dress up like maids on stage to be. If we go back to the comparison I assume this band will draw from American audiences is to baby metal, and that it is girls playing rock music from Japan, and they have outfits that are, they have a gimmick. The difference being is baby metal's 3 vocalists and then a bunch of old dudes who are, metal players. This is some girls who formed a band and write their own shit and, put it all together. And I kind of appreciate that it feels more, it is very produced. It is very polished, but it also feels a little more authentic, I think, than baby metal does, because it's just a rock band who happens to have a gimmick.
Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
For me, I'm going to skip the opening track and actually do the second track, Puzzle. The first track was good, don't get me wrong, but Puzzle was oh, this is what we're going to do. It has the hit you hard and then drop the bottom out and let the singer come through. It gets into a really cool ebb and flow with the music. Tonally speaking, again, this is the song that made me think, oh, this is sort of what I remember, the junior high wheelhouse I was talking about earlier. YOLO. I think YOLO is the single for a reason, and I think it's a pretty damn good reason. The hook itself is really catchy. The song itself gets your head moving in the up and down fashion. And it is polished to a high shine. It seems like, at least to me, from an outsider's perspective, listening to the whole record, this feels like the song that was sort of made hey, we're going to need something to put on a radio. And it's not always a bad thing to do that if you can do it in a way that still sounds like you're making a song that you want to make. And I think they did that. And then ending with Secret My Lips. It just sort of ends heavy as hell, which is nice. The vocal effects on this one, I could leave it. But otherwise, it's a really fun track overall and a good way to end for me.
Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Don't You Tell on Me. The album.
I'm a snitch.
You may or may not end up with stitches.
Yes.
But the It's I walked into this album not actually knowing what I was getting, and this album opened up in a way that I was not expecting from, say the cover art and it sounds very turn of the millennium pop punk with a dash of butt rock on top. But then I heard a dive bombing guitar solo, and I was like, okay, there's more going on here than what I would have assumed in the first 2 minutes of listening to this album. The song Moratorium, the double bass drum is on display, and so is the groove. They also make good use of throwing some squealies in, and a drop tune sound in a very poppy song, which is not something I've really ever heard before. And Take Me Higher. Sammy Hagar can't even do that for me anymore. The bass is put on display, and they mix the bass up. And there are also two Metallica-esque, wah pedal solos tucked in there as well, which made me be like, oh, hey, that's where you use a wah pedal. There you go. Really, you can break down a lot of the songs on this album, but those were the three that really hanged with me.
Yeah. There's a lot to pick up on a lot of the tracks, almost all the tracks. Like I said, but let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusive thoughts. Patrick, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I thought this was fun. Sometimes music can just be fun. I was like literally today driving home blasting this in my car, and in that context it works really well. This is not the greatest groundbreaking album in the world. It is not certainly for everyone. It does some things, but if you've ever heard a hard rock anime closing theme song and you're like, wow, that's kind of fun, I want more songs like that, here you go. Here's an album full of a lot of that. It's good. It's enjoyable. It's better than the gimmick. So I think you should go listen to it.
Yes. Drew, what would be your conclusions?
I had a ton of fun with this record. It dips in parts. It's not perfect, but it's something that, again, it's it's just fun. It was really kind of an easy listen for me personally. It's something that I'm excited to hear more from these guys. This is sort of their first full length, so it's something that I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's to me at least another Love X Stereo situation where I'm like, I'm probably gonna keep an eye out for more from these guys. I personally really dug it. Again, not perfect by any means. It's not going to set the entire world on fire, but it picked my ears up, and I'm gonna keep them there.
Mm-hmm.
Well picked.
Yes. Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album?
I mean, this really ain't my thing, but I can certainly respect the skill that's on display. It's a very well done album, and more importantly, it is something that I have never heard before. I had never thought that this was a thing that could have been done, and now I know, and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe. 2 PSIs, 2 episodes in a row.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think overall, that enjoyable is, I think, the key word. It is a fun record. It is fun. It is a fun, very poppy record that uses its rock and its metal influences to good effect. Is the thing, it's fun to the whole Maid thing. I think one of the funnest things is if you look at them on stage and you look at their outfits, you can tell who was really enthusiastic about the Maid thing, and who showed up to practice. Does this count as a Maid thing? Does this count? This counts, right? All right, let's practice. So you can kind of tell there's a thing like that, which is fun. But because they're all in it ultimately for being in a band and making music. You know, they all write the music, they all write the lyrics, which is cool. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't make them more authentic than anything else. No, they're just other people that make music, but it's cool that they do that thing. It's cool and it's cool to listen to do that thing, and their talent is really cool. That last sentence I don't understand. But overall, yeah, it's really cool to kind of listen to them wail and listen to play music and listen to them play guitar. It's like
that was me wailing.
Yeah. And overall, it is a fun, catchy, you know, infectious album, and I think that is worth checking out. It's a band that's worth checking out. It's a band that's worth keeping an eye out to see as they grow. You know, they could, especially if you want to, you know, if you are following, or probably better than I am, because you know, as we've documented on my other podcast, Halijuku, it's hard to get into Japanese music because they don't really do a good job of exporting. Yeah, unless you like watching short versions of music videos, and if you do, I commend you. But I personally don't like my song being interrupted 2/3 of the way through, because they want to sell a DVD to me. Seriously, Japan, physical media is dead. Just accept it.
The home of the mini disc? Nah.
But yeah, overall, it's just a really cool album that's worth checking out and worth listening to, and it's worth keeping an eye out for Band-Maid as they grow and as they keep going. But yeah, let's get into the main event of the evening. What everybody's been waiting for, the true star of the show. We get into the haiku reviews. Let's get down to it. Patrick, what is your haiku?
More than a gimmick. Well-made and well-played rock songs. Pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what is your haiku?
Not a 100, but pretty damn fun music. Keeping an eye out.
Brett, what is your haiku?
A new style to me. A wild pairing of cultures. Well crafted and tight.
Tight.
Let me snort some drugs off of a knife.
Heavy hard rock maids, lacking nothing in their skill, they do just bring it. Yeah, that is of course our thoughts on Band-Maids. Just bring it. You cannot find it on our Spotify playlists. You'll have to go out and seek it out. Probably buy it on Amazon, buy it or seek it out in other forms. Maybe force Avex to actually put things. You can purchase it on iTunes, or listen to it on Apple Music. But yeah, or Amazon Music. It is on Amazon Music. You can listen to it on Amazon Prime, Amazon Music Unlimited. So those places, go seek it out, go check it out, listen to it. It's worth the time. It's worth the effort. But presumably, actually, on our Spotify playlist will be the next record, I assume, and that will be provided by Patrick. Patrick, what do you got for us next week?
So I'm gonna pick a band that I miss and I enjoy, who I feel are very, very miscast because of the years with which they came to prominence. And
Alice in Chains.
No, but similar
Temple of the
situation. System of a Down and their album Mesmerize.
Fuck.
I'm looking forward to this. 'Cause I like System of a Down. Also, I pulled them up on Spotify. And under merch they have System of a Down fidget spinners.
Yep,
That's
that's about
the
right.
second best fidget spinner I've
All
seen in the last week. So awesome.
But yeah,
I'm thinking about buying one of those.
But yeah, Mesmerize. But that I'm looking forward to that discussion. Not the album I would pick, but it's definitely going to be a fun discussion.
I know I didn't pick that album specifically because I think this is more interesting because everyone's heard that album.
Yeah. Yeah. Look forward to that next week. But that's next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at Swagger. Brett is at HibbityBearbird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XLuciferX. I'm at Petey Rave. The show is 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breaker. RecordBreakersPodcast.com is the website. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com is the email. The electronic mail for which you can send electronic mail to
The Cyber Post.
Yes. Send that email to us. As long as it's nice. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and other places. Yeah. We're on places where you can find podcasts. Do all things. Like, share, subscribe.
Get a damn haircut.
Yeah, I need to get a haircut.
I did. I literally cut all of my hair off.
I need to get a haircut. Like my mom, my aunt is a hair stylist. So I should get a haircut. But that's
Next week with a perm comes Petey.
Yes. That's it. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
Woo-hoo.